The action takes place in the prison of the Goblin King's castle. The dark-haired young man writes in the book that he is very sorry and he has just realized that free cheese only happens in a mousetrap and he did not think that it would be so heavy. He writes that fate has long placed its price on everything and advises the reader to avoid the snail. A pink-haired girl looks out between the bars, calls out to him and asks what he is doing, calling him Aesop. The brunette replies that he is writing a suicide note and asks what is the matter, calling Nane. The pink-haired woman asks with horror why he writes and smiles, because no one writes a suicide note with a smile on his face. She asks why he is not crying. Aesop is very surprised and asks why Nana herself is crying, because this place is so cute. The girl asks with horror why he thinks the Goblin King's castle is cute. The Goblin King is considered one of the strongest warriors of the kingdom, and the castle is his main stronghold, in which he invested years of his life to secure it and fill it with all sorts of traps. Even paladins from the capital of the kingdom do not risk storming this cursed place. Nana says she heard that a Grand Duke tried to save his kidnapped daughter and led his entire army to attack. However, the Goblin King destroyed them all. The pink-haired one sadly says that the Duke, although he was a good father, could not save his daughter. Aesop thinks that if the Goblin King is so strong, then even she won't be able to get here. He looks at the ceiling with a very complacent look and mutters some nonsense under his breath. Nana starts crying. The brunette does not pay attention to her. Nana thinks that she should also leave a suicide note and asks Aesop for a leaf from his book. The young man refuses her. Nana indignantly asks why. Aesop shows her that a leaf cannot be torn out of his book. The girl asks for the whole book, but the brunette again refuses her, saying that no decent person will give others his personal diary. Nana furiously shouts that no one will read his diary, and that Aesop should stop being a pompous turkey. The pink-haired woman promises not to read his diary and again asks to give her a book. Aesop refuses her for the third time. Nana promises to nail him and sticks her head between the bars and gets stuck. The young man asks her what she is doing. Nana asks him to help her get out. Aesop laughs, then agrees to help her. He counts from 3 to 1, but at that moment the midnight bell sounds. The walls of the dungeon begin to crumble, and the brunette realizes that she has come. No matter where he is, on a Sunday morning, at the same time, she comes to take his life. A tall woman appears with the Goblin King's head in her hands and an unusual weapon in her hand. Snail. Aesop's mother tells him that free cheese only happens in a mousetrap and that even in heaven there is nothing that will be given to him for free. She asks her son to buy her a bottle of soy sauce. Aesop wakes up in front of the throne of a supreme being who says that he can grant him infinite wealth in his world, but the price will be the constant pursuit of a snail. The brunette remembers his mother's words and rejoices that he did a lot of good things and God noticed him. He asks the supreme being if he can fight back against the snail when it attacks him. He is told that this will be his problem and he can do what he sees fit. Aesop represents an ordinary snail and smiles contentedly, being in anticipation of getting rich soon. In the next picture, surrounded by beautiful girls, he throws money and orders a goblin bodyguard to guard the house and make sure that there is not a single snail shell nearby. At night during a thunderstorm, a tall figure in a black raincoat knocks down the door and Aesop asks what she needs. A tall woman in black clothes and with a fancy weapon says that she needs to finish off the target. The brunette mumbles that he is too hasty with conclusions and that the woman just knocked down the door. He asks her name and offers to make friends. A woman destroys his room. Coins fall at her feet. She doesn't pay attention to them. Aesop swallows and whispers that he understood. He rushes to run screaming that the snail has come for him. In the next picture, the brunette jumps off the bed under the snail's gaze, shouting how she found him here. Then Aesop runs away from the fire in the forest, next to which there is a snail, shouting that she has come for him again. He jumps into the water from the cliff on which the snail is located, exclaiming that he was wrong and had already given her all the money, asking her to forgive him. The snail finds him in the chicken coop. Aesop mutters why God is fooling ordinary people so much and asks her to finish him off since he is tired. The snail swings, and the young man runs away, asking for forgiveness and referring to business and the desire to live longer. In the next picture, Aesop stands in front of the Goblin King's castle and thinks that he smells of death, and that if he is locked up here, even a snail will never be able to get to him. 2 goblins shout at him to get out of here or not complain later about being captured. Aesop thinks how easy it is and shouts to them that he is not their father to go somewhere and not come back and let them do what they want with him, showing their tongue at the same time. He calls them the last words, and they shout to him that their leader will gladly finish him off. However, now a snail stands in front of Aesop and throws the Goblin King's head on the floor. They look at each other. Nana looks at them. Aesop whispers that she can't kill him. The snail destroys part of the dungeon, and Aesop falls to his knees in front of her. Nana looks at it and trembles in fright. The snail swings at the young man, and he thinks that this time he will not escape. Stuck, Nana starts crying again. The snail is distracted by her and Aesop thinks this is a great chance. He snatches a brown ball from his bag, holds it high and shouts, "Secret skill. Smoke grenade." A cloud of smoke rises, and the young man, jumping out of prison with Nana in his arms, asks for forgiveness and shouts that she will not kill him so easily. Nana doesn't understand what's going on. Aesop jumps off a cliff and tells the snail, laughing, to try better next time. The hood falls off the woman's head, and the young man's parachute opens. The snail throws out the head of the Goblin King and viciously wishes it to crash to death. The action takes place near the castle of the Goblin King. 4 people look out from behind a tree. One of them, a bearded man, looks through binoculars at the castle gate and asks the others if they really work as mercenaries. He is answered that yes. The bearded man shouts why they haven't attacked yet. A blond man in a helmet puts his hand to his head and reports to Mr. Condor that in such matters it is not necessary to hurry and in every possible way dissuades. The bearded man looks at him incredulously and curses because the mercenaries said they would sort everything out as soon as they arrived at the place. The mercenary holds his ears with both hands. He orders them to move and save his daughter as they were paid a lot of money. Mr. Condor presents terrible pictures and is outraged that because of them his daughter had to spend the whole night with vile goblins and that he can't even imagine what is happening there. The blonde-haired man thinks that his daughter was kidnapped half a month ago and what could have happened has already happened, and that if it hadn't been for such a large amount of money, he wouldn't have come here. In the next picture, Mr. Condor hands the mercenaries a large bag, then promises 2. Then 3 mercenaries and a duke stand on a stone dais in front of a crowd of men in identical clothes, and a man in a helmet says that they will defeat the Goblin King and raises his hand with a clenched fist. In the crowd, they whisper that their lives are more expensive than money, assume that he is not a local, that's why he was so easily deceived, regret that they have to explain it to so many people and believe that they are worthless mercenaries and walking corpses. In the next picture, a blonde mercenary walks in front of a disjointed column of people. Numerous passers-by look at them with interest. The man does not understand what is happening and hears the voices of others. They do not believe that the Goblin King is really so strong and that it is not surprising that the Lord paid so much money to foreign mercenaries. The blonde-haired man thinks that since they have already taken the money, although it is a pity, he is not going to lose his reputation. He believes that reputation is above all and is going to really go on the attack, but if something goes wrong, immediately run away. Lord Condor asks what he is thinking and orders them to attack immediately, as it is already midnight and morning will soon come. The mercenaries stand at attention, and the blonde thinks it's time to follow the plan. He figures that a good plan of retreat is needed and that if he defeats a large number of goblins, he will immediately become famous, and if he cannot defeat them, he must immediately retreat. The blonde man salutes and shouts to his comrades to get ready. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and the mercenary asks what happened in the prison and why there is such a strong rumble. Lord Condor is outraged by their hitch and shouts that even if it is an earthquake, it should not concern the mercenaries, since he paid them. A green-haired, pointy-eared girl in a black hat calls everyone to silence. A pentagram appears in her eye and she says that magic is raging in the prison. The high mountain on which the dungeon is located is covered by a huge black-green vortex. The green-haired one thinks what kind of monster it is, assumes that it is the Goblin King and is horrified that such a gigantic force belongs to one being. A blonde mercenary asks her what it is. The sharp-eared girl answers in fright that this incredible magical energy has suddenly disappeared, and that either the Goblin King has understood something and deliberately blocked it, or she believes that this cannot be and does not finish to the end. Lord Condor appears from behind and exclaims that this is magic and bullying, and that he just wants to save his beloved daughter. He asks to feel sorry for the old father. The blonde man raises his hands and says that they are already preparing to attack. There is an explosion on the mountain. The mercenaries whisper that the prison has exploded. Lord Condor looks up and hopefully asks if his daughter is really there. He exclaims that someone fell out of there and slowly descends. Aesop holds Nanyu on his shoulder with one hand and holds the parachute with the other. He lands on the ground among the mercenaries and mutters about his new failure and how hard it is. The brunette looks around and asks why there are so many people here and where they all came from. He continues to hold Nana by the hips, and this greatly outrages Lord Condor, who recognizes the girl as his daughter. Aesop slaps Nana on the ass and tells her that her father is here. The pink-haired one sobs and calls Dad. Lord Condor rushes to Aesop and angrily asks what he did to his daughter while threatening. The brunette tries to explain something, but at this time the head of the Goblin King falls next to them. The young man's clothes and face are splattered with blood. He quietly rejoices that he died. Lord Condor is shaking with anger. Aesop asks him what he just said. The man smiles sweetly and says that he just said that he did a great job and killed the Goblin King himself, and that this is a real holiday for all his people. He also adds that he hopes that Aesop liked his daughter's ass and that everyone here is happy for him. The young man looks at the Duke in bewilderment. The action takes place in the Shining City, Condor's estate in a beautiful white and gold castle. Aesop is sitting at a large table and swears dirty at the Goblin King for not destroying the snail. Outside, Nana and Lord Condor were stuck to the door. The pink-haired woman asks what Mr. Aesop is doing, and it seems to her that he is very angry. The Duke replies that such powerful people have their own quirks. Nana wonders why Aesop is called powerful. Lord Condor tells her to go with him to a room where he will tell her everything. The girl agrees. In the next picture, Nana and her father are sitting in armchairs. The Duke says that at first he thought that Aesop was an ordinary soldier and even wanted to take him into his service. He is glad that they were smart enough to send people first and gather enough information about him. The bearded man was very scared when he heard their report. Nana asks if Mr. Aesop is really that strong. Lord Condor exclaims that he is just incredibly strong and stammers, not knowing what to say next. He mentions that in the south, Mr. Aesop has the nickname the Lonely Brave. The girl asks again if they are really talking about a guy who looks like a sophomore. The Duke advises her never to insult Mr. Aesop like that again and to call anyone a sophomore, but not him, even if it perfectly describes the brunette. Nana sighs and looks away. After a short pause, Lord Condor tells Nana not to worry, because her father is very good at collecting information and that his title corresponds to his own actions. The pink-haired girl looks at her father in bewilderment. The bearded man is going to tell his daughter a secret and asks if she thinks that this happened to Aesop for the first time. Nana asks if he's talking about the kidnapping. The Duke shows 2 fingers and says about the penetration into the lair of a real monster, and that this is not the first time. He says that Aesop has already penetrated into the cave with monsters all alone and only in order to destroy these monsters. Lord Condor admires his spirit and says that he himself was once the same and how wonderful it is. Nana assumes that Aesop got into that prison on purpose. The Duke says that there are a lot of rumors about Mr. Aesop, but the most popular of them must still be true and calls the first one that he always carries a diary with him. Nana confirms this rumor and says that the names of strong monsters are written in it and that when a brunette kills a monster, he crosses his name off the list. At this time, Aesop again swears at the Goblin King for not being able to kill the snail. Lord Condor calls the second rumor that the young man has a paraglider, on which he hides after killing another monster, leaving no traces. At this time, Aesop looks at his parachute and thinks that he is doing well since he saved him again and that if it were not for him, the guy would have died from the ill-fated snail in the prison of the Goblin King's castle. Lord Condor calls the third rumor, showing 3 fingers, that there were a lot of witnesses to Mr. Aesop's battles and most of them claimed that during the battle he was asking for help. Nana asks why he does that. The bearded man replies that at first no one knew this, but after they saw the carnage left after him, they realized that in fact Mr. Aesop does not want to kill even in the name of justice, and that he is the one who longs for peace and love in his soul and feels the pain of forced killings. At this time, Aesop lies on the table and, smiling, thinks who is capable of killing a snail. Tears come to the eyes of the touched Nane. Lord Condor calls the fourth. His favorite is that Mr. Aesop hates fighting and despises fights and bloodshed, and that whenever blood is shed, he feels unbearable pain in his soul. But he still rises and continues to fight, shedding blood every second to save more people. A lonely brave man. As long as there are monsters in this world, he will not rest. In the next picture, Aesop is lying in a chair and thinking about how tired he is that the snail comes to kill him every week, and that he wants a break. Lord Condor at this time exclaims that Mr. Aesop is a great hero and their savior. Nane, starting to cry, shouts that the young man is great and that she simply has to marry such a good man. The shocked Duke asks her to wait. At this time, Aesop exclaims that it is impossible, because the snail does not even talk, but tries to kill him, and that there must be someone in this world who can finish her off. In the next picture, the snail sneezes because Aesop remembered about it. Nana offers Aesop tea. He refuses. She hands him a piece of roll. The young man refuses again. The girl brings a bowl of chicken soup, and Aesop again refuses, asking if she has other things to do. Nana says no, and since the young man was all alone, she decided that he was bored and decided to talk to him. The pink-haired woman tells him not to worry, since he does not distract her from anything. Aesop mumbles that he didn't want to and thinks that in fact it's Nana distracting him. Gets angry that she doesn't understand the hints and remembers how on the first day the girl was still angry at how obscenely he saved her. But only one day has passed, and one day has already passed, and there are only 6 days left before the snail attack, and the brunette has not even figured out what to do this time. Nana asks what 6 days are left. Aesop replies that he's up to nothing. The girl begs him for an answer. The young man asks what she is really here for. Nana remembers that she wants to marry him in her childhood. Blushing, the pink-haired woman thinks that even though it was not as she imagined, and that Aesop carried her not as a princess, but as a boar from hunting, but she doesn't care and that she needs to come up with a good name for the child. The brunette asks if he said something wrong. Nana blushes and thinks how ashamed she is. Aesop thinks he's sort of figured it out and it's time for him to go. He tells Nana he's going for a walk. The pink-haired one thinks that he invites her for a walk and agrees. The young man says he thought she would persuade him to stay. They walk through the city and Aesop, squinting at the happy Nana, thinks that she really went with him. The girl thinks it's so unexpected that they go on a date and is happy that everything is starting. The heading Nana is dating tips begins. The girl says that men, when they go on a date with a woman, are very nervous and ask her where she wants to go. At such moments, you can take a chance and answer, why not go to? Name a place. A man will say that it would be nice to go to this place, and you just need to agree. Nana believes that in this way you can not only choose a place, but also transfer the initiative into men's hands, and this will be a great move. She hopes that Aesop will fall into her trap a date. The pink-haired one asks him where he wants to go and thinks he needs to behave naturally. Aesop replies that he will go to the alchemy workshop. Shocked, Nana does not understand what kind of choice of place it is. The brunette turns around and asks her what's wrong. The girl says that everything is fine. The action takes place in the alchemical workshop of the Shining City. Nana says that this workshop is one of the largest in the country, and therefore there are always a lot of people here. Aesop asks the merchant if they have a day off today. The blonde is interested in what he needs. The young man hands him a drawing and asks him to make a mechanical puppet based on it. The merchant refuses him. Nana thinks that Aesop made a stupid mistake, because in front of him is a noble master of alchemy who will not take on a puppet that anyone can make, and that it would be almost a shame. The girl thinks that since she is the daughter of one of the richest and most influential people in this city, the alchemist will not be able to refuse her. At this time, Aesop begins to lay out bags of money in front of the blonde. Nana indignantly thinks that this cannot be and that the alchemist will never take them, as it will be a blow to his honor. The merchant shouts what the young man is doing. The girl understands that he is mad. Aesop puts a second bag on the counter. The blonde says he's insulting him. The brunette throws the third and fourth bags. The merchant thinks he is swimming in gold. At this time, another master appears and asks Aesop to let him make this puppet. He agrees with a sigh. Aesop and Nana are standing near the counter and looking at the work on the puppet. The girl admires the power of money. The brunette asks Mr. Odyssey how the work on the paraglider puppet is going. The blonde says that he recharged it. However, this mechanism is very unusual and quite delicate, obviously made by the hands of a non-master. Aesop says that Odysseus is well versed in this and that the paraglider is really made by the hands of an alchemist named Stel. Odysseus shouts that he mentioned a great master named Stel Geras. The brunette says that it seems to be his full name and asks what's the matter. The blonde man shouts that he is the most famous alchemist in the kingdom. Everyone knows his name and that he is a legend here. Aesop mutters that he is really quite famous. Nana stands nearby in shock. Odysseus is outraged that the great alchemist had no need to make some kind of puppet mechanism, and that Stel is not quite famous, but incredibly famous. Aesop says that at first the alchemist really did not agree, but he threw bags of gold at his shop. The mechanic thinks he could have asked for a lot more. Meanwhile, the young man remembers that of all those who worked with him, the blonde asked for the least money. Odysseus sits back down to work in a completely shocked state. Aesop asks him what's the matter. The mechanic asks him to wait a little longer and that when he finishes, he will call the young man. The brunette asks him not to be distracted. Soon Odysseus, with a dissatisfied face, brings him a repaired paraglider. Aesop is surprised by the speed and ease of the mechanism. The blonde throws that it was not difficult. The brunette asks how long he can use it. The mechanic says he's not using all of it yet. Aesop calmly opens the paraglider and says that the work is great. Odysseus shouts that it was very difficult to charge him and doubts the mental health of the brunette. He calmly replies that he will pay again for the repair of the paraglider. The mechanic demands another bag of gold. Aesop agrees and praises his work. The blonde man says that all his ancestors were artisans and that he has been working with mechanisms that have become his family since childhood. The brunette asks him to sell him an alchemical network capable of fixing enemies on the spot. Odysseus offers him a hexagonal star formation, one of the best developments of the alchemists, which is used by the city guard and which even the orcs cannot break through. Aesop refuses. The blonde shows him the chains of Ophir, which catch the enemy and adjust to its power, after which they restrain him with the help of magical power. The brunette remembers that he has already broken several such chains. Odysseus says that it's okay and that he also has a restraining shirt of Ladon, with which they catch giants. Aesop still doubts its sufficient power. The mechanic talks about the devil's thorns that hold back even ancient dragons. The young man asks if they are mounts. Odysseus calls the mouth of Azeroth, which even the Goblin King. Aesop interrupts him and asks him not to mention him anymore as it gives him a headache. The mechanic asks if he is mocking him. The brunette says that these are too fancy things for him and that he needs something simpler and rougher. Odysseus advises him to go and collect slime, as it perfectly suits his requirements. He thinks that Aesop will take it as a joke, but, not hearing laughter, asks if he will seriously follow his advice. Aesop, holding bags of gold in his hands, says that he needs it. Soon after, Odysseus, seeing the drawing in the hands of the senior master, asks if this incompetent drawing. He confirms his guess, arguing that he does not want to return so much money. The action takes place near the bulletin board. A crowd of mercenaries looks at an ad that says about exchanging slimes for gold coins for each. They quickly dismantle their weapons and run to hunt slimes in the vicinity of the Shining City. At this time, Nana tells her father that she has finished and leaves, saying that she is going to the alchemy workshop and that she will not be back for dinner so that she is not expected. The servant says that the young lady has recently begun to spend it with Mr. Aesop, and that this is not surprising, since she has always dreamed of marrying a great hero. Lord Condor says that even if the heroes die, they always remain in the hearts of people. Only Nana is a noble lady, and Mr. Aesop definitely does not look like a rich man and is dissatisfied with the fact that she spends all the time with this poor hero. He orders the butler to bring him the money. He says that he understood everything. The Duke asks again what he understood. The servant informs him that he must hire an assassin with this money to deal with Aesop. Lord Condor looks at him strangely and shouts that with this money he should bribe Aesop to leave his daughter, and that this guy defeated the Goblin King himself and that he is not afraid of an assassin. The butler says he will bring the money right away and soon returns with 2 bags of gold. Lord Condor personally comes to the alchemy workshop and is horrified by the huge number of slimes inside. From behind, a man shouts to everyone to disperse and carries a cart with slimes. He shouts that all the slimes in the western part have been cut out and invites everyone to go with him to look for new ones. The Duke shouts that they have staged a real genocide here. Aesop, standing near a cart with gold, says that he pays here, and mercenaries run to him with requests to pay them. He tells them not to hurry, while Odysseus cuts the bags of gold and measures it with buckets. Lord Condor looks at it in shock. Nana asks why he came and why he needs bags of gold. The Duke says he knows she's in love and that's why he brought her money. He advises her not to forget that even though their family is a little poor, they should have pride. Nana, however, thinks that these days they spend in the workshop should certainly have an effect. But the presence of Odysseus next to Aesop makes her very tense, and she calls him the last words. The girl thinks that she will not go to the workshop today and how Odysseus dares to distract Aesop from her and be next to him instead of her. She walks into Aesop's room with a cup of tea in her hands and, seeing him sleeping very impressively in an armchair, asks if he is okay. He says he was just thinking. Nana asks to tell her and promises that she won't tell anyone else. Aesop asks her to get ready to listen to his whining. At this time, Odysseus enters and says that his slime weapon is ready. Nana is swearing to herself again. The brunette happily gets up and is about to leave. The blonde man asks if Miss Nana is coming with them and, turning around, freezes in horror. The pink-haired one with the face of Yandir says that, of course, she will go with them. In the workshop, the senior master says that this is an incomparable alchemical weapon that is capable of shooting streams of slime like a dragon spewing fire. Besides, the radius of destruction is tens of meters. The ammunition is all slimes from the Western Hill. The slime has been condensed, which is why its sticky properties have been increased hundreds of times. Aesop says that he will call this weapon Green Breath, and that only thanks to the masters they had the opportunity to put their hand to the creation of such a magnificent weapon. Odysseus mutters darkly that it's just a water pistol. The brunette says that it would be necessary to test the weapon and that he will do it personally. On Saturday, a crowd of orcs appears near the Shining City. They shout that they will kill the Lord and take his place, that they have returned and will take everything from them. They are surprised that they do not see a single slime and that they really wanted to have a snack with them. The orc is scratching his head. Aesop writes in his diary and asks what the Chinese Lantern Festival is. Nana says admiringly that this is one of the most important holidays of the Shining City, and it is a great luck to participate in it. She asks him to definitely take part in the festival. The brunette ironically remarks that he has been at odds with luck for a long time, but still agrees. Nana asks again. Aesop asks when this holiday will be. The pink-haired one replies that it's Sunday. The brunette remembers about the snail. Nana says admiringly that on the day of the holiday, the whole Shining City will literally shine. Hundreds of lanterns will rise into the sky, and the city will be covered with bright light. She's going to make wishes while admiring these lanterns, and Aesop imagines how the snail will kill the people gathered at the festival, and then he will say that wherever he goes, she will find him everywhere, and that every Sunday they will be together. The girl cheerfully tells that there will be a whole bunch of different food and snacks on the streets at this time, and it will be possible not only to eat, but also to try something new and unusual, for example, cupcakes or lollipops. However, after such a feast it is difficult to return to normal food. In addition, they will be able to try love meatballs, which are prepared only for the Lantern Festival. Nana asks the shopkeeper for 2 chopsticks with meatballs at once. He hands her what she asked for, saying that they will no longer have such a holiday and that they no longer have a future. The shopkeeper turns out to be a snail. However, these are just the thoughts of Aesop, who can't help but think about what might happen. Blushing, Nana starts to say something, but at this time the door opens and a young man asks if Mr. Aesop is here. Nana angrily shouts what Tom needs. The young man slams the door in fright, saying that he just wanted to inform him that he was taking a day off on the occasion of the Lantern Festival, and asked to find a replacement for him. Nana smiles and invites Aesop to go to the party with her. During the holiday, a contented Aesop gorges himself on meatballs and asks one by one. The pink-haired one thinks it's already the 10th. The brunette says that they are made from real beef and eats from 2 sticks at once. Nana whispers that they are most likely from the duck. The seller says that Aesop has already ordered 10 skewers of meatballs, and he replies that this is because they are incredibly delicious. A man gives a brunette a bracelet made of balls with a bull's head and says that only someone who is able to eat 10 skewers with meatballs is worthy of receiving it. Nana says the bracelet is very cute. Aesop turns to her, and the girl thinks that he is going to give her a bracelet, but he asks if it suits him. Nana shouts that she should also get such a bracelet, and is also going to eat 10 skewers of meatballs. The seller says that his wife made only 2 such ornaments, and he has already given one to another young girl. Nana thinks that a girl with the same bracelet is walking around the city and imagines them holding hands with Aesop. She starts crying and begging for meatballs. Aesop says in surprise that he has already offered them to her, and Nana looks at the bracelet. In another shop, she demands 2 mugs of wine, and the brunette asks if everything is alright with her. Drunk Nana joyfully shouts that everything is fine, and since midnight is coming, the time of the beautiful fireworks is approaching, and that she comes here every year. The fireworks begin. Aesop, looking at him, thinks how beautiful it is and that during the whole time of his journey he has never felt so calm. Nana says that she comes to the fireworks every year because her father usually spends the holiday at some boring party, and that it's the first time she's not alone at this holiday. The young man mentally asks her for forgiveness since it is already midnight, and slowly walks away while she is talking. The pink-haired one says that all the time she was with him, she had a lot of fun. An explosion is heard, and wounded soldiers shout that the orcs have attacked the city. People run away in fear past Nana, who tells Aesop that they need to leave too, but does not see him nearby. She is at a loss looking for her lover with her eyes. Meanwhile, in an alley, Aesop meets a snail and suddenly notices a bracelet of balls on her hand. Aesop looks at his hand and asks fearfully where the snail got the same bracelet. He remembers the words of the merchant and wonders how it is possible to call a snail a nice young lady, and shouts it out loud. She is visibly angry, and Aesop says that he understood everything correctly. At this time, the snail rushes to the attack, perfectly opening for the shots of the young man. He shoots, and the snail is enveloped in a large green cloud. At this time, Nana, running away, falls and, sobbing, thinks that Aesop saved her from that terrible prison, and now he has abandoned her. She thinks he doesn't like her and cries. The pink-haired woman screams why all guys are like that, tears off a piece of her dress and takes off her high-heeled shoes. She thinks that now she needs to rely only on herself and thanks Aesop for the lesson he taught. At this time, he is standing near a huge pile of slime and say that it is very cloudy and he can't see anything. He walks around her and mutters that it's been quite a long time and finally this snail died there. Aesop starts laughing and shouts that he is very glad of her death and does she know how hard life has been for him lately. At this time, she slowly gets out, and the young man continues to say that it is very hard to live when a murderer comes for his head every Sunday. In words about how he suffered, the snail breaks out without any damage. They stand on opposite sides of the pile, and Aesop continues that a lot of effort went into creating this weapon. He asks if she's moving there and that she won't be able to kill him anymore. The young man invites her to come out because he is right here, and the snail goes to him. The brunette screams that he is a corpse and runs away as fast as he can. At this time, Nane, running away, bumps into a stopped man and looks over his shoulder forward. 3 orcs are standing in front of them, and one of them says that there is no need for them to run, since all their lords have long disappeared along with money and soldiers, and that now the shining city is laughing at them. Another orc hits him in the head and asks him not to laugh, because they came for supplies, not for the city, and to think with their stupid head, because there are too few of them, and if people want to recapture the city, they will all come to an end. An orc in a horned helmet orders these 3 to keep an eye on the people and leads everyone for supplies. He orders to gather all the little children, because they will serve them as food, and kill the adults who will resist. 3 orcs obey. The little boy starts crying. The mother tries to calm him down. One of the orcs says they'll start with him. The woman, hugging her son, asks others for help, but they only turn away shyly. The orc, picking his nose, says that no one will save her because they are not stupid, and repeats that everyone who resists will die. Nana shouts at him to shut up and not dare to touch the children. The orc scratches his ear thoughtfully and asks Nana if she understands what she is saying and why she is asking him to let that child go. The girl shouts that they already have all the necessary resources and do not touch people. The orc says that she will also suit them perfectly and grabs the pink-haired one. Nana asks him to put her down on the ground. The orc says that such a beautiful young girl in the clutches of the orcs is waiting for a lot of things. Nana tearfully asks him to let her go. At this time, a shot is fired, and the orc's head lights up. Her father and Odysseus run to the falling Nane. Lord Condor asks why she is not with Aesop. The girl begins to cry. The Duke says that all the mercenaries fled when they found out about the orc attack and that he was looking for her everywhere. Odysseus says that now they can only rely on themselves, since all the guards were defeated or scattered. Nana mumbles something, but at this time the orc angrily shouts that after this they still hope to escape, and if he is shot in the head again with this little alchemical cannon, he will kill all the people who are left here. Lord Condor draws his sword and says that even though he has old bones, they can still hold a sword and that he will not lay a finger on his daughter. The orc grabs the pink-haired man by his clothes and says that then he will break all his old bones. Lord Condor smiles in horror and says it was just a metaphor. Nana picks up the fallen sword and shouts to the orc to let go of her father, otherwise she will kill him with one blow. The Duke shouts to her that she has gone mad and she needs to forget about him and run away with Odysseus. The orc asks who Nana thinks she is and throws Lord Condor to the ground, saying that he will have fun with her first. Odysseus stands next to Nane, saying that he will help her. The orc invites them to attack. The girl shouts at him to shut up. When the blonde says he is ready, Nana runs to attack and after a terrible and wrong swing from behind his head stretches on the ground. The orc squats down and, laughing, says that this is the most inept handling of weapons he has ever seen and hands the fallen sword to the girl. He offers her another try and says that she can relax, he can safely give her the weapon, because it's so much fun to play with people. Odysseus fires a cannon and shouts that there is still him. The orc throws him far away against the wall and says that he is tired of having fun with them and asks his brothers to kill all the people. He invites them to compete in who will kill the most. They happily agree. Suddenly Aesop comes running and shouts to everyone to leave immediately. He throws a gun at the orc and shouts to run again. Aesop runs away, followed by Nane. The orc laughs at how timid people are. A second later, all 3 orcs are killed. The girl hugs the brunette and says that she always knew that he would come back and save her. The townspeople ask each other if Mr. Aesop really just killed all the orcs with one blow, and are surprised at his power. They run to him, asking Mr. Hero not to leave. Aesop thinks that this time he will definitely die, seeing a snail running towards him from behind. An hour before that, a snail chases Aesop around the city. He exclaims that something is wrong and that she is especially fast today, and does she really get a speed bonus from slimes. Aesop reaches the city wall and shouts that today is his day and runs up the wall, as wings have grown out of his boots. The brunette is happy that at least snails can't fly. However, turning back, he sees a snail calmly walking along the wall and asks him to forget his words, since they know how to walk on walls. In the present tense, Aesop is surrounded by people, and he shouts that they are carrying and it would be better for them to run away as quickly as possible, since they are in mortal danger. People say he's a hero and thank him with all their might. He thinks he's going to die for sure. The snail remembers the meatball and how delicious it was to her and thinks that it is impossible, and will definitely kill Aesop next time. He sees that the snail has left and does not understand what is the matter. He sees her in a dream. Waking up, Aesop sees Nana sitting next to his bed. She hugs him and says that she should not have doubted and thought that he had abandoned her. She starts talking despite Aesop's request to wait. The brunette thinks that the snail killed the orcs, but everyone thought that he did it. She spared him, but the plan did not work again, and it's very insulting. The young man remembers about the meatball bracelet on the snail's arm and leaves, saying thank you to Nana for taking care of him, but she'd better rest. Nana wonders if that means he's worried about her too. She is lying on the bed and thinks that the experience means that he cares about her, and if she is not indifferent, then he accepts her for who she is, and if he accepts, then they will soon get married. She thinks that he is so brave and that they will also call their son Aesop. Nana is secretly watching Aesop, who is talking to a meatball, and thinks that this is not surveillance, but just a desire to find out where he is and what he is doing, since she is his future wife. The seller asks the brunette if he means the girl with the second bracelet of balls and informs that she came half an hour ago. Aesop thinks that the snail is not an ordinary NPC, but a living person in this world. The meatball maker says that she really liked the meatballs, but she came to ask to fix her bracelet, and it would be better for her to make a new one. He shows a cracked bracelet with Vera written on it and assumes that that's her name. The young man thinks that if the snail is an ordinary person, then he can run so far that she will never catch up with him. Nana comes over and asks for meatballs. Aesop remembers that there are no high-speed trains or airplanes in this world. Nana pretends that she met him by accident. Meanwhile, he thinks where the snail will be the hardest to get to. The girl is thinking how she will ask to keep her lover company. Suddenly her face turns red. She jumps up from her seat and shouts that such a spicy was added to the meatballs. The seller says that this is a new taste of wasabi. Aesop thinks how the snail tracks him and pays attention to two people who drag the armor and drop it. He realizes that this is armor from a slain orc, and the men are surprised that the armor is from one piece, and not from two, as usual. They notice Aesop and thank him for saving them. He looks at the crack on the armor and remembers that she was cut by a snail, but she is still fine. He thinks what the armor is made of. In the alchemy workshop, an elderly man tells that the armor is forged from cold northern steel, and the orc who wore it was the leader of his pack, and that he had seen such material only in his youth when he worked in Star City. It is said that cold steel is made of iron minerals, which can be found only in mountains that are at least 1,000 years old. Besides, it is one of the most durable materials in the world. The apprentices admire the knowledge of the master, and Aesop looks at the armor with tears in his eyes. Nana is surprised that he is so attached to a piece of iron. The master says that the production of cold steel is a very complex and special process, and they cannot create it. He asks if Aesop wants to sell steel. They will gladly buy it back and pay as much as they want, because they do not have such metals, and the orcs do not bargain. The brunette shouts that if he makes armor out of it, he will be invulnerable. The master says that this metal will not make it invulnerable, and it is very difficult to carry and transport it. Aesop imagines a snail in a cage and says that he is going to the north, and they are going with him to forge a cage out of cold steel. The masters say they won't go, because the orcs will turn them into cutlets and it would be better for him to think carefully. Nana thinks that if she takes the initiative, Aesop will offer her to become his wife and represents it. The master says that the orcs treat people as slaves and food, that the northern orcs are much fiercer than the local greenskins. The young man thinks that if they also wear cold steel armor, he will kill two birds with one stone. The master says that the path from the shining city to the north is far and dangerous, and without proper preparation he will simply freeze halfway. Aesop imagines a frozen snail and thinks that there are already 3 hairs. He shouts that then it is decided and calls everyone to go with him. Everyone recoils back, only Odysseus remains in front. Aesop regards this as agreement and happily shakes his hand, saying that he is glad that they are really best friends. The blonde says that he cannot leave the workshop and is looking for support from his master. He signs the contract for the transfer of the disciple and informs Aesop that Odysseus is now his disciple. A woman is buying vegetables, and a brunette is dragging a screaming blonde by the legs from an alchemical workshop. Nana and Aesop look at Odysseus, who says he doesn't want to go north. The girl says she will go to her father and collect the necessary equipment. The young man tells her to take his time and, turning to Odysseus, informs her that he no longer has a choice, but he will receive a monthly fee for his services. He is indignant that he cannot be bought and that he is not going to die in the north with Aesop, who offers him 1,000 coins for a month. They come to the Guild of Merchants, and Odysseus asks why they came here, because there are only speculators who stink of gold. Aesop says that in order to get to the north before this Sunday, they will need the help of the guild. In the hall, a man who looks like a rat is shouting and swearing. When the brunette enters, he is happy and thinks that since there are rumors that he has a lot of money, it will be just fine if he becomes their regular customer. The man says that he is the chairman of the Guild of Merchants and how he can help Mr. Aesop. Odysseus thinks that as soon as he saw a rich man, he immediately began to suck up. Aesop says he needs to get to the northern lands before Sunday. The chairman asks that it is a great honor for their guild that Aesop trusted them, but is he seriously going to ask them for the impossible? He says that everything is possible and he only needs things from the list, which he puts right in the man's face. The chairman unfolds the list and is horrified by what is written in it. The list includes 10 leading guides, 20 unicorns, 10 tons of grain, 3 fire mages, 10 pure-blooded snow elves, 3 swordsmen, 10 billion magic crystals. He asks why he needs unicorns. The young man replies that in order to pull the caravan. The chairman thinks that Aesop is mocking him, and says that unicorns are incredibly expensive and even in the royal family it is customary to keep no more than 4 animals, and even then as noble pets and commoners simply cannot use them. Aesop says there are no problems, he has money. The chairman says that it's not really about money, and they have a strict hierarchy of clients in the guild and so far he doesn't have enough rights. The brunette says that he knows that only customers with a red ribbon can buy outlandish items and holds out a red ribbon. The chairman says that since he has only one, the rumors have lied and that Aesop misunderstood him, because the more the client deposits gold, the higher his rank, but since he has only one ribbon. He asks not to be offended, but he is very funny. The man offers to see their best horses and donkeys. Odysseus thinks that even he felt uncomfortable after what he saw. Suddenly, Aesop tears off his raincoat and says that he remembered that he has a lot of ribbons and that he even made a t-shirt out of them. The shocked chairman falls on one knee and shouts that now Aesop's problems are his problems, and his requests are his duty and that he is ready to go through fire and water for him, and he can do whatever he wants. In the merchant guild, red ribbons show a person's level of power and wealth. The more ribbons, the more money a person has. But what should be the status of a person who has a shirt made of red ribbons? The chairman says that he has already given orders for the purchase of everything necessary. And does Aesop need anything else? He says they're leaving on Wednesday morning. The man mutters that maybe a day and a half will be enough for preparation. Under the frowning gaze of the young man, he happily assures him that they will definitely make it. He warns that the services of such an unusual person as a snow elf will cost Aesop a pretty penny. The young man says that let him come. A white-haired elf is sitting by the window. A purple-haired girl with glasses calls out to her, calling her Mrs. Shelley. She thinks that there is no such magnificent mistress in the world as hers, because just a few months ago the city of Los was on the verge of destruction. The lord of the city was a complete jerk that did not even try to protect him and disappeared without a trace along with the guards. Being a simple orphan, Mrs. Shelley went out to the monsters, wanting to thank people for their kindness and upbringing and negotiate with the lizard men. Everyone thought that she would die. But Shelley returned just a moment later, and the lizard men who had terrorized the city for many years disappeared without a trace. The elf said that there was someone else there, meaning Aesop, but no one believed her, because who could need to help the city for no reason, and then disappear? The girl believes that her mistress killed all the lizards and picked up the red ribbon of the guild from one of them. The lilac-haired woman asks if Shelley would like to have tea and relax. She thanks her and says that she still can't believe that she was appointed city lord, and that she seems to be living in a real dream. The girl exclaims that even though Shelley tells everyone about some stranger, she knows what kind of a prude she is. Because how can you imagine that a passerby out of the kindness of his heart killed all the lizards and disappeared? Aesop sneezes because they remembered about him, and Odysseus shouts, just not in his food. Shelley looks out the window and remembers how the lizards shouted to her that day that they would roast her and leave her for dinner. At that time, Aesop was running through there, shouting that he was going to die, fleeing from a snail running after him. The snail slipped on the mud and accidentally hit the ground with its axe, scattering all the lizard men. The brunette plopped down on the ground in front of Shelley and asked her to pull him out, handing the red ribbon to the guild, and she agreed. The lilac-haired one says that there are a lot of lies in the report, and this kid named Aesop can't have that much money, and that he's gone. Shelley asks again, and the girl replies that a guy named Aesop asks her to be his guide. The elf says she's going to see him immediately. Lord Condor forbids Nana to go north. She asks why. The Duke wonders why Nana wants to follow Aesop. The girl shouts that she also wants to travel the world and gain experience. The man squeezes her cheeks and asks why his stupid loving daughter is fixated on this dangerous man. Nana says what makes him think that Aesop is dangerous, because so many people respect him. Lord Condor asks again and thinks how it happened, because he just has a lot of money, but no power. Whether it's collecting supplies or personnel, without influence it's difficult to put it together. He says that if Aesop can create the best expedition group in the country, he will let his daughter go with him. Nana happily thanks, and the Duke thinks that she should thank him in vain, because she will feel bad from this man. A servant bursts into the room and calls them to look outside. Along the main street of the Shining City, wagons drawn by unicorns are driving, mercenaries are walking, and behind all this is Aesop. Nana calls out to him, but he looks through the window of the latest card and thanks Shelley for coming and agreeing to be his guide. A disgruntled girl with glasses opens the door, and Shelley starts to come out and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Aesop gives her his hand and agrees with her words. Nana is surprised by the appearance of a woman. The elf stumbles and falls on the young man. Nana makes a strange face. Aesop asks Nana if she knows who the most beautiful girl in the world is. She asks who, and the young man replies that it is his beloved, looking into Shelley's eyes. They reach out to each other, but Nana shouts that she does not agree and wedges between them. Lord Condor asks why she fainted. The girl sees Shelley in front of her and introduces herself as a good friend of Aesop, shaking her hand. The elf introduces herself as the Lord of the City of Lows. Nana screams and starts to fall, not understanding why she is glowing so much. Aesop says that Shelley will be their guide to the north and wonders why Nana fainted. The pink-haired one replies that nothing and thinks that since Shelley is a city lord, she didn't have to leave the city for work and with her beauty and status when they get to the north. Imagining the elf in the arms of her lover, Nana says that she wants to have a serious talk with Aesop, that she has been putting it off for a long time, and instead of confessing her love, as she wanted, she says that she wants to go north with him. The young man gives a thumbs up and says that they are leaving tomorrow. The next morning, the caravan leaves the gates of the city. Residents accompany Aesop and wish him good luck. The children say that he is their hero and they will always remember him. Thus Aesop left the Shining City and set off on a long journey to the northern lands, defying all the dangers on the way. Then a verse with a very free rhyme is written in the scroll. Aesop is talking to Shelley, and Nana thinks that she was the first, knows better than him, and let the elf not approach him. And does this mean girl imagine herself better than everyone else? She clutches the sticks in her fist and breaks them. Odysseus, sitting next to her, looks at her strangely. Nana tucks her legs under her and says that Shelley is an adult and beautiful, and even a lord, and how much better she is than a simple heiress like her. She asks the blonde if she really should be better. Odysseus agrees with her, apparently not wanting to make such an enemy. And Nana happily says that she has much more time to be with Aesop, because Shelley is a lord and very busy. The girl invents that she has noticed for a long time that he likes Loli, and she is younger than the elf, and that she herself appears in history more often than her, and this means complete victory. Odysseus wearily goes outside and thinks that this trip is getting worse and worse. Aesop comes out to him and, hugging him joyfully, informs him that they are already approaching the northern lands and will soon find themselves in the village of orcs called Hood. The blonde guy says he's very brave. Aesop says that, unfortunately, the expedition was going in a hurry and they did not have time to choose a leader, and is interested in whom it is better to put in this important role. Odysseus thinks that there was no need for such a bad acting game and begins to answer, but the brunette interrupts him and, shaking his hand, says that he is absolutely right and he will leave the duty of informing everyone about the change of route to him. He declares that Odysseus is the best. The blonde man shouts for Aesop to refuse a 5-year contract and double his salary. He easily agrees and imposes on him the duty of a daily roll call, so that there is no one superfluous. Odysseus mutters that he is too naive and no one will want to join them on the road to this lost place. At night, a snail climbs into a food cart with a torch and looks at the meat with a hungry look. At night, when the orcs invaded the Shining City, the red orc sees his brothers being hacked to pieces and takes Aesop for a demon. He resorts to the throne and says that he is not a deserter and has come such a long way to tell about it that Aesop's eyes sparkle and fire burns from his mouth. The main orc says that he is a real warrior, since he was able to survive a meeting with the demon, and that the good tribe is happy to welcome him into their ranks. The next day, the redhead looks through the telescope and thinks that the local orcs are stupid, since they believed his inventions. He was very lucky, and that he never wants to see this guy again in his life. He wonders at the human caravan so far to the north and stares at it. Noticing Aesop looking out of the window, the orc shouts about the appearance of a demon and the need to warn the leader. The brunette is happy that they are going so fast. Odysseus shouts at him to close the window because they will freeze to death. Aesop tells him to relax because they're coming soon. The blonde says it's great, but you need to be careful with these monsters, they can die. The young man says it won't go that far. Aesop apologizes for the fact that the unicorn did not notice the wall. The leader of the orcs is interested in what they have forgotten here. The brunette walks forward, rummaging in his bag and saying that he has come to make a trade deal. The orc shouts at him to stop and show him what he has in his hands. Aesop hands them an apple and says that food obviously won't hurt them and that he brought household items and food in exchange for cold iron. The red orc points a weapon at him and shouts how dare he encroach on their treasure, and that even if he were a demon, even a deity, he would not get it. Aesop rolls his eyes and says that it makes no sense for him to lie to the orcs and that he will give them a whole lot of money in addition. The orcs arrange a rich feast and the leader joyfully announces that he swears that from now on people and giants will live in peace and share joy and sorrow. They feast on the dais, and the rest of the orcs stand at a distance and also rejoice. Red Orc mutters that the old leader has gone crazy and made a deal with the devil, and that he will pay for it. He intends to steal food from people and escape before it's too late. Opening the door of the cart, the orc sees a snail that enthusiastically eats meat. The redhead rejoices when he sees a defenseless woman and says that he can sell her to a slaver and earn money for the road. He stretches out his hand to her and asks her not to scream. The next second, he is cut into pieces. Odysseus urges the orcs to work carefully as their safety is paramount. Orcs work enthusiastically, sometimes calling to each other. The blonde asks if they really came all this way to see the orcs building a cage. Aesop says that they don't know each other very well yet, and that death is on his heels. He asks him to say okay. The brunette puts a hood on his head and says that death, like the wind, is always with him. Odysseus, leaving, says that after that slime pistol, he was sure that Aesop had gone. He is indignant. Nana is happy that the blonde is leaving because the two men are tired of spending time with each other. She resents the return of Odysseus. Shelley asks what Nana is doing and sits down next to her. She replies that she enjoys the breeze and asks why she left the post of lord and came here as a guide. Shelley replies that this is because her and Aesop's destinies are invisibly intertwined, and since he needed her, she came. Nana says that everything is clear to her and turns away. Red Orc's corpse is discovered. The mercenary says that he came to check their supplies and saw a body half covered with snow, and the lack of monthly provisions. The leader calls the deceased Buck and is very upset. Aesop thinks that the snail not only used their own transport, but also shamelessly ate their food. The leader demands an explanation of why Buck is lying dead near their wagon. The brunette hesitates, but Odysseus asks in response why one of their orcs climbed into someone else's cart, and why there is not enough food in the cart for a whole month. And the orcs have a lot of it, and that only another orc can cut an orc like that. The blonde claims that the accusations are groundless, and they are trying to violate the peace treaty that was recently concluded. Aesop calls him his best friend. Odysseus shouts that they have been with them all this time and that it would be better for the orcs to go look for the traitor and check the territory for wild animals. The confused orcs leave. Aesop looks at his friend admiringly. The blonde man says that the brunette knows that it was not a beast and that he realized that the legend is true. A long time ago, an evil god wanted to destroy one village as he was dissatisfied with the tribute. And then one warrior came forward and took on their common curse and agreed that the devil would hunt him all his life. This warrior became immortal, but when the villagers found a cure, he was no longer alive. Odysseus assumes that his friend received the same curse. Aesop is surprised by the strange legend, but believes that he will be offended if he tells the truth and agrees. The blonde promises not to let him die, and the brunette thinks that this should have calmed him down. The orcs are finishing the construction of the cage, and their leader is thinking about what it is intended for and how the customer is going to take it away. Another orc says that Aesop said something about the final battle, and that it will come in handy today. The leader decides that the cage is intended for orcs. Nana is happy that Aesop is finally alone. He says that one woman constantly pursued him and she can't imagine how afraid he is of her and doesn't know what to do. The girl thinks that the brunette is talking about her. He asks if she remembers her. Nana waves her hands and asks if Aesop has someone else. He tries to pull away. The snail is watching them. An orc woman approaches her and asks what she is doing here all alone, because it's cold and unsafe here. She offers Snail to go with her to the house for dinner. They leave, and the orc woman says that they will serve a traditional orc dish, and that she will definitely eat. Snail agrees. Aesop asks Odysseus what he is doing and says that the leader of the orcs invited them to a feast. The blonde shouts that if Aesop knows the appearance of the monster chasing him, then let him lay it out, because it will be easier for them to figure out how to deal with him. The brunette says that this is a humanoid creature dressed all in black, in her hands a huge braid and very large breasts. The leader of the orcs joyfully greets Aesop. Orcs ask him to pass. He says it's not worth it and asks them to sit down. Odysseus shows the drawing, but the young man says that she is a girl, not a guy with hanging breasts. The leader of the orcs whispers to the red orc to imperceptibly slip sleeping pills into Aesop's drink while he distracts him, and that, judging by their whispers, they are up to something bad and that the orcs should make a move first and that he should not tell anyone anything. He goes to tell everyone. The black-haired orc tells the redhead not to drink too much and not to tell anyone. The mustachioed orc says that the leader will attack people today and they should not find out about it. The female orc is surprised that the leader is going to poison the guest. Nana overhears her words and says it's her turn to save him. Aesop looks into his mug with something green and assumes that it is slime. The leader of the orcs offers him to drink, because this is a special drink of the orcs, a tincture of slimes. He thinks that a person can't resist their gorgeous tincture, and wants Aesop to drink it sooner. He thinks that he did not expect such a thing from himself, but he is waiting for the appearance of a snail. He puts the mug on the table and promises that he will definitely drink their drink, but a little later, because he decided to take the chance and say a few words to them. He starts with the beautiful settlement of good. The orcs are in deep shock. Aesop says that everything is fine and thanks for the cooperation, informing about 3 promising proposals. An hour later, the red orc went to the wall to roast meat, and those who remained in the hall fell asleep on the tables, except for the leader, who considers what is happening a human curse. Aesop finishes his speech and wishes everyone a pleasant appetite. Orcs happily jump up and shout, rushing to eat. The leader of the orcs says that they have been waiting for so long, and that now he needs to try the tincture. Aesop thinks that now he has nowhere to go and decides to drink a little. At this time, Nana rushes at him and asks him not to drink. Odysseus looks at her strangely. The leader of the orcs asks what's the matter and that he has the same drink poured, because this is their excellent slime tincture. Nana demands from him to drink first, because he is the leader. The orc hesitates for a long time and shouts that people are rude and that he should not have invited them to dinner, and that they are leaving. Aesop asks not to leave, but the pink-haired one shouts that they are leaving. Odysseus clamps her mouth and asks her to stop, because they are orcs. Nana swears and twitches. The blonde says she needs to go rest. The girl throws food. The brunette thinks that everything is fine and he still has a cage made of cold iron, and that it's time to run to her. At dawn, a snail appears, and Aesop says that they have met again. The snail runs to him, and the young man invites her to look at his new toy. The mechanism works, but Aesop is in the middle of the trap, and the snail is on the edge. He says he can get out, but she can't either. Aesop says that the snail may not even try, because she will not be able to kill him. The snail strikes the bars of the cage. The young man says that today she will not only not kill him, but will not run away, and asks her to accept her fate. The snail slips his scythe between the bars and the brunette screams in fear. He recalls the words of Odysseus that cold iron is susceptible only to magic and is horrified that this scythe also has magical properties. The snail tries to cut the bars and Aesop tells himself to calm down, because the more dangerous she is, the calmer he must reason in order to cope with her. He glances at the bracelet and remembers her name. Aesop calls out to the snail, calling it Faith. She raises her head sharply, and the young man thinks that he has succeeded. The brunette says that she should stop and think about her safety, otherwise he will tell her parents everything, and remembers that this phrase is able to stop most evil spirits. The young man says that she should not underestimate the power of money, because for gold he can safely hire a lot of people who will find her family and friends, and then he will not be able to guarantee anything. He is also sure that Vera would not want them to find out that she is a murderer. Aesop understands from the snail's face that she is also a person and she has her weaknesses. He says if she stops following him right now, she won't have to worry about anything. The brunette offers Vera to finish this dangerous game and give her what she wants. The young man shows the snail his meatball bracelet and says that since they both like to eat well, they can become friends, and that she should think about that old man, because he bought their shop, and if he dies, they will lose income and there will be no more such delicious meatballs in this place. He offers Vera to make this world a better place together and holds out his hand to her, which the snail pushes away. Aesop thinks that he failed neither to bribe her nor to intimidate her and only had to believe in orc iron. He asks Odysseus to come and save him and thinks he is finished. Apparently, he came to the logical conclusion of this story. Vera tries to get between the bars and tears her clothes, finally getting stuck. Aesop opens his eyes and shouts that she is stuck again. The snail blushes, and the young man laughs and asks her what she is doing here so late at night. Vera waves her hands furiously, but she can't reach him. Aesop pulls out a gun that shoots slime and says that this is a portable version that looks like a marker, and that he will start now because she herself is to blame for this. The snail tries to escape, and the young man asks who ordered her to kill him and how he can stop this hunt, because he is tired of endless wealth and just wants to live a normal life without persecution. He demands that she answer honestly, otherwise he will get angry. The snail shakes its head. Aesop says that in this case she does not know what a person who is going crazy is capable of. He draws a pig's nickel on her cheek and says that this slime will not wash off. Vera begins to cry. The brunette asks if she is not going to talk even after such humiliation. He says that he is a simple man and wants a simple ordinary life, but she is just a mercenary and let her not pretend to not understand what and not be offended by the fact that he is so rude. Aesop takes the bracelet from her and Vera asks her to give it back. The young man shouts that only 6 months have passed and she has spoken. The snail is shaking and Aesop tells her to just take the bracelet and, since she has spoken, answer his questions. Otherwise he cannot guarantee the safety of her bracelet, as well as the fact that it will not end up in the ass of some unicorn. Vera imagines a unicorn and is horrified. Next, Shelley, Vera and Nana are depicted in depraved clothes.